Ladies and gentlemen, dear honorable guests, fellow students, and of course, everybody who is following us online. Thank you very much for joining the TUM Speaker Series tonight on this very special evening. As an organization from and for students, we always try to connect young shapers like you with role models, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders. Today, we are proud to present you a speaker who really stands out. He is part of a company which products each of us uses at least 20 times a day. You want to know how artificial intelligence will influence our lives in the future? He is the man who might have an answer. To start our event, I warmly welcome President Hermann on the stage. Enjoy. Mr. Hermann, I warmly welcome you to the stage for your introducing words. Thank you.
Dear students, in the very first place, ladies and gentlemen, Google at TUM. A special highlight today, after Kofi Annan, the former UN Secretary General and Nobel Peace Prize laureate, yesterday in the same auditorium. And all this is thanks to the speaker series, a brilliant student initiative that started 20 years ago and that has produced a lot of continuity, has brought in famous, outstanding, most prolific people from all around the world to TUM. Thank you to the team of the speaker series. Today, dear students, I have the privilege to welcome Eric Schmidt. Not a TUM alumnus, though, but a Princeton and Berkeley alumnus. And this is an equal level, I would say. Thank you. It took us 150 years, because we now celebrate our 150th anniversary, to get as good as we are. But now we are excellent. Thanks. So, Eric Schmidt played a crucial role in Google's development ever since the year of 2001, when he joined the company as CEO until the year of 2011, followed by the chairman's position till 2017. Now he is a technical advisor. That means he knows everything and can tell people about his long-standing experience. He has made outstanding achievements in making Google the premier hub where a major part of the world's digitalization story has been written. And we have great respect for you, Eric, and the company. And this story has coined our recent history, and it will influence our future, everyday's life, the future of every single individual. And we have to cope with this future of digitalization, and we have to carefully use it in our personal life and in the society. TUM, ladies and gentlemen, is an entrepreneurial university. We create and shape our own agenda. That means entrepreneurial. That's something of your attitude. That's something for your brain and your heart. We collaborate with research-driven high-tech companies. All the TUM Partners of Excellence are coming. And guess who is missing here still? But no longer. But no longer. You recognize highly renowned companies that have been traditional partners of TUM over a long time. And these and other companies give you students an opportunity of early getting an idea how industry works, what is the challenges of modern society to be modeled into products in companies. TUM Partners of Excellence are the coronation of an immense extended industry network that we have built ever since this university exists. And this is the reason that we want to early tell our students what's on in the world, in an ever-changing world indeed. Exercised since 1868, exactly 150 years ago, when we were founded by King Ludwig II, by the way, as a polytechnical school to shape the industrialization of Bavaria. And the motto at that time was, bring the spark of science into the industrial world. And this motto still applies for our university. Now, Google is yet another excellent partner. Are they here? Now they arrived. Google is yet another excellent partner. First, because Google now is also in Munich, and this is good, and Eric, Munich is the paradise. Whenever you come here, you never leave it again. Also, already existing research teams are available. I mentioned the example of Scan Complete. This is in the area of augmented reality, joined by faculty of our Department of Informatics. We also want to learn new approaches to R&D by Google. You adapt your R&D strategies and how to work to the habits of the young generation. You exercise new ways of teamwork and communication, of job sharing, of home office, and many other and more details. And of course, you offer job opportunities. The informatics department is the biggest one in our university out of 14. More than 5,400 students in the moment. 1,000 female students, by the way. Proud of them too. And more than 1,000 alumni entering the labor markets out of TUM every year. A further reason why Google is an excellent partner is the initiative Applied Artificial Intelligence and Robotics. We get €250,000 for that. And Unternehmertum is going to administer and coordinate this project. Actually, very recently, we have hired one most outstanding capacity in robotics and machine intelligence, Professor Haradin, who has actually returned back home to Munich, where he originated from. And I should mention it, an emotional connection to Google. This is Andreas von Bechtolsheim. He originates from the Lake Ammersee area. This is nearby Munich. And he is an alumnus of TUM, but he was so smart that he did not finish up with his informatics study and left the university earlier to make his luck and success in the United States, which both he found there. And finally, I should mention the entrepreneurial spirit is something that we have in common. When we were founded in 1868, Karl Linde, a 26 years old mechanical engineering man, was hired a professor of this university, and he invented the refrigerator very soon, founded the company, which is now Linde's company with more than 60,000 employees worldwide. And he joined the company for 10 years. He came back to the university because he liked his old alma mater, and he invented the air liquefaction. So how to separate the gases that air contains. And he finally produced a famous student, Rudolf Diesel, who invented an engine which still works better than ever. So this is part of our history. This is part of our history. And this entrepreneurial spirit is now a strategy, has been made a strategy in our university, and you people join it. You are the ones to spin off with companies. In the last 20 years, TUM has created more than 800 spin-off companies with a workforce of momentarily more than 15,000, and we are best rated in Germany to support university for spin-off. Now, what's the future? I don't know, but Eric Schmidt knows, because this is the title of his lecture. But before he can start speaking to us, I'd like to ask him up here, together with Dr. Hohlfelder, because we now celebrate our new, young partnership. TUM has the TUM University Foundation, which was chartered in 2010. And to this foundation, Google has contributed 1 million euros. Without any specific expectation. They just...
Except for excellence.
They just expect us to do excellent training to you and to yield most outstanding entrepreneurial young people for the world of tomorrow. So thank you for the donation.
And congratulations.
And here we have the certificate, the Partnership of Excellence Technical University extends thanks to Google for the financial and ideal engagement as founder of the TUM University Foundation, Munich, February 16 of 2018, the president. Congratulations for the partnership. Both of us, the Brits of English. Now, it's your turn.
Oh, my turn. Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. I owe many debts to this area and to this university. When I did my genetic test, I discovered I'm from Bavaria. So I want to thank you. So when I say I'm coming home to Bavaria, I actually am coming home to Bavaria. And the other is to Andreas Bechtelsheim, who I met when he was a young graduate student at Stanford, having come from here. And he invented the Stanford University Network, which became the Sun Workstation, which is where I first learned how to be a manager. And had I not done that, I would not be standing here. And so in many ways, the loop is full cycle, with Andy finding me and me eventually coming back here. I am convinced that we're moving into a new age, and that new age is an age of intelligence, and I want to talk about that. We've gone through the industrial age, we've gone through the farming age, we've gone through the information age, if you will, but I think it will shift now to be an age of intelligence, for which this university is particularly well suited for reasons that I'll describe. And I want to be clear that I'm not talking about computers being smarter than humans. What I'm talking about is computers working with people every day. Because computers will do what they do best, and humans will do what we do best, at least for a while. Right? At least for a while. Now, all of these things I'm going to talk about have to be done against a set of principles of ethics and behavior, which we can talk about, and your comments will be interesting. But let me give you some examples of what's happening right now. Computer vision is better than human vision. So what are things which you would prefer to have a computer do than a human do? Well, let me give you an example. You go to the dermatologist, and you have something on your skin, and they say, it's not cancer. And I say, are you sure? And they go, I'm sure, I'm the doctor. Okay? But when we've tested it, the computer vision is more accurate than the best dermatology diagnosis. Now, that doesn't mean I'm going to have no doctor, but it means I'm going to say to the doctor, I want you to use that device, and I want that device to tell you if my skin is cancerous or not. And then the doctor will say what to do about it. What about my eyes? Ophthalmologists. So it turns out ophthalmologists look inside your eye. So we have tested this. And computers are more accurate in the diagnosis of illnesses of the back part of your eye than the best optometrist and ophthalmologist. Why? Not because the computer's smarter, but because the computer has been trained with more eyes. Millions and millions and millions of eyes, to the point where even the most committed optometrist and ophthalmologist would declare failure. So you see that if you think of it as a vision problem, therefore a classification problem, there's something it can do better than we do. What about pathology? Classification of what's going on when they take a sample. What about radiology? In fact, most medical procedures have a vision component and a prediction component. We have results, and we've seen results in startups now. I'll talk about cancer a little bit. I didn't know this because I'm obviously not a doctor, and you all have a medical school here, that cancers are graded by a score, and a lot depends on the shape, size, and type of cancer as to how you're treated. But computers are very good at that sort of thing. So the ability to take essentially MRIs and X-rays and then essentially give advice to the doctor is about to be transformed. That's pretty good, right? Important for all of us, especially as you get older. What about planning, right? So here in Germany, people actually think climate change is real. It's extraordinary. And here in Germany, people have the world's leading adoption of solar panels. I know you're concerned about energy and efficiency. I know you're very, very good about these things. But we have algorithms that have improved energy efficiency of the top data centers by 15%. Not because our engineers weren't very good, but because the software we had could see more subtle patterns. It can see patterns deeper than the best humans. So that ability to do deep historic pattern matching, which can be understood as what number follows a long sequence of numbers mathematically, is a skill that's applicable everywhere. That means you can predict a lot of things. An example is that we built a program that could play the game of Go in 7 days and beat the top player in the world. Pretty amazing. How did it do it? It didn't start with any games. It just played games against itself to learn the patterns and then learn them more deeply than humans in 2,500 years had ever figured out, and discover new moves that no human had ever encountered. That's pretty neat. It gives you a sense of how powerful these things are. So what do I want? So if I was talking to my physicist friend, and I said, what is your biggest problem in physics? And he said, the problem with physics right now is there's too many papers for me to read. And he's the smartest person I know. But there's so many physicists writing so many papers on so many things, even he can't keep up with it. So what does he want? He wants a program. He goes home to have dinner, and he wants a program that will read all the papers, think about all of them, and in the morning come back and make a suggestion. Right? By the way, that'd be useful for you as a student, too. Right? So think of that as you have the physicists, and then you have this ability to do this deep, very, very powerful pattern matching, right, that looks at all combinations and comes back with insights. And that is, at least in the short term, the thing that will change everything. We now know of teams around the world that are looking at doing protein folding, looking at gene regulation and how do genes actually work, areas where science does not know the answer. But using this pattern matching, as I call it, this machine learning, with all of that data, they can generate machines or software that will predict the next outcome. And with that, they get the insight to discover how to invent new materials, how to invent new antibiotics, how to invent new organic chemistry, right? All of these things, and eventually even more new biology. Now, you'll notice that I'm not talking about the killer robot, right? I don't think we're going to have all those movie scenarios, maybe forever, but certainly not for decades. So the good news is you're safe, finishing school, graduating, starting a company. You know, the killer robot's not coming anytime soon. And the reason I say this is that when I'm talking about this technology, I'm talking about it working with people and not replacing people. Now, there are people who think that 20, 30, 40 years from now, this will all be possible, and they might be right. But so many things will be different then. It's very hard to know what the conversation on this stage in this university will be 30 years from now. But what I do know is that the technology I'm describing will dramatically transform your worlds. Now, in your case, you use AI every day. You use Google Translate. By the way, that's AI. You use Google Photos, that's AI. Google Ads and Google Lens, which is an image recognition, that's AI. YouTube, you probably use YouTube both for work and also for fun. The recommendation engine is AI, right? They're trained from what other people do. I can go on and on and on. There will be self-driving cars. They have AI inside of them, and you'll be in one eventually. What's interesting is that this is a startup culture. Every startup I visit, in the Bay Area, in MIT, in the East Coast, here in Europe, every startup does the following. They take some data, they put it in a big data store of some kind, and they run machine learning against that data to develop something which they then offer through an Android or an iPhone. That is the canonical startup. That's what everybody's doing. That's how powerful this technology is. Now, of course there are issues. I'm not suggesting that this is a panacea. I am suggesting, and I want to make sure you know, that the platform that I'm describing is the biggest discovery in my career because it involves intelligence. It's almost and possibly as important as the discovery of the transistor and the integrated circuit. It's certainly more important than most of what has occurred since then, because it allows information to become more powerful across so many different industries. So let me give you an example. what is an issue? Well, one obvious issue is job displacement. And everyone is concerned about job displacement. But the fact of the matter is, if you do some math, and you all are good at math, you'll discover that there's not going to be too few jobs. There are going to be too few workers for jobs, if you follow my reasoning. And the reason is pretty simple. What is the demographic characteristic of Germany? What's the ratio of young people and older people, right? It's not so good. What's the demographic picture of Portugal, all of Northern Europe, the United States, China, Japan, as an example? All the same. They all have the same shape, which is a smaller number of people in their working and productive era, and an increasing number of older people, of which I am becoming one, okay? And I am looking forward to all those younger people working on my behalf, right? That's how it works. So all of those young people are going to have to become more productive. Now, they're not going to work more hours. We're not going to go from 35 or 40 hours a week to 60 hours a week. It's not going to happen. But what we will do is give them tools that will make them smarter, that will make them more intelligent, that they will become, on a per labor unit basis, their labor unit productivity will become higher because of automation. And by the way, that's always been true. It was true 20 years ago here, and 30 years ago, and 40 years ago. And now it's true because of this technology. So there are other issues that people are concerned about, and I want to talk about a few. But a lot of this has to do with how we live online. Everyone here is familiar with the issues of fake news and information that's being manipulated. So let's talk about that for an example. We've made a commitment to the importance of real news. So we, working with German and other publishers, are funding attempts to eliminate fake news. Indeed, the German government has criminalized the transference of fake news, and you have to actually remove it when you encounter it, which we're indeed doing. We have problems online with people who are using fake identities, and so there is a collaboration among the tech industry to try to identify that and try to sort of take those things out of the system. It's called FIDO. There are problems with terrorism, which of course is horrific and evil. And there are now groups within the industry sharing information about terrorism, trying to identify the people, turning them over to the police if we can, but in any case, shutting off their access to the digital world. We're doing lots of other things. We're focusing on teaching coding, right? We want people to be prepared for this world. We want it to be a legitimate world. We want everyone, not just these top students here at TUM, but all of Germany and all of Europe and all of the world. It's important to us for moral reasons as well as good business reasons. And we have spent some time trying to think about the ethics of what we're doing. The industry is organized around something called the Partnership for AI, which is a powerful group. And we ourselves spend quite a bit of time looking, for example, we want to avoid having bias creep in to the algorithms if they're trained. Remember, these algorithms learn by training, but if you train them to be biased, you become biased. That's not good. And there are many, many people working to try to eliminate that bias. We're also funding our own research and research elsewhere to understand where these algorithms break. One of the things I'll tell you right now and right up front is that today the world I'm describing is not reliable enough to make it be life safety critical. It's not reliable enough. There are too many errors. If I put you on an airplane and I put these algorithms in and I said, oh, there's a 2% chance that the airplane will just crash. And furthermore, we can't tell you why or where. You'd say, take another airplane, right? Have a good time. Call me when that number is 100%. That makes sense. So we are working very hard as an industry, as a community, and for our own products to increase those kinds of things, but those remain concerns. We're also worried about some of the things that we've seen in misinformation. A typical example, you've had a little bit of this in Germany and in Europe, although not as bad as the United States, governments interfering in elections by manipulating the news, manipulating source. So It's a much longer conversation, but we built tools which will allow you to look at conversations online and decide how much hate you want to have in your conversation. Oh, I like lots of hate. I hate hate. I don't want any hate. I want it to be inflammatory. I want it to be calm, right? So we're giving you the control, right, of how you want to have this expression be there. We're not trying to censor it in any way, but we want you to be able to prioritize it in whatever thing you care about. This has resulted in a product which we call Protect Your Election, which indeed has been used here in Germany, in France, in Netherlands, in Czech, in Korea, and you can betcha it's going to be used in our 2018 elections in America, as well as elsewhere as it becomes more successful, because we're committed to these kinds of issues. So I want to finish and take your questions and comments on this or anything else by saying that this is the beginning of another huge transformation. We talked earlier about the invention of diesel engines, right? The invention of refrigeration. These were transformations that we celebrate today 150 years ago. Good job, Germans, right? Right? I live in Silicon Valley, and thank you, it's cooler as a result of what you did. And my food is safe, and on and on and on. So 150 years from now, people will be saying, we really want to thank those people who figured out this age of intelligence, because it began a new set of platforms that discovered new cures in healthcare, new materials, new insights in math and gaming, new ideas in physics, right, and made the world a better place. And I could not be prouder to be part of it. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life, and I cannot wait to talk to you all about it. Thank you very, very much.
Hello, Mr. Schmidt. My name is Paul Sponsor. Let's have a seat.
Shall we? Would you like
Yeah,
me to
let's
sit
have
down?
a seat.
Okay, good.
No, we already started.
Okay.
Thank you
Of
for
course.
joining us tonight. It's a great honor to have you here. Tonight's topic is, okay, Google, what's the future? And we are glad to have someone here who can give us some more insights on how artificial intelligence will shape our future life. Mr. Schmidt, as we are very tight on schedule tonight, we will jump right into the topic. In your keynote, you mentioned the impact of AI. For some, it's the solution for the problems of mankind. Please tell us, where will we benefit the most from it?
The biggest benefit you'll see in the short term will be in health, because we are all the same. We think of ourselves as so very different, but medically we are the same. And yet, there are so many small differences that our computers can detect. I'll give you an example of blood chemistry. We now have the ability to do real-time monitoring of blood chemistry and EKGs, so heart and blood. And do you think that the kind of very high-quality monitoring and measurement that I described will produce new insights into the early onset of heart disease, cancer, and other debilitating stroke, other diseases? There's a lot of evidence that it will. I think that 5 or 10 years from now, most people will wear these health watches or something like that, because the benefits will be there for everybody.
Okay, but no doubt that AI will have a lot of positive effects on how we live, but others see in it a great danger. Which downsides do come with AI, and how can we overcome them?
Well, I think a lot of people, it's important when people criticize AI to understand, do they understand what they're talking about and what time frame? Because you're already using it today in the ways that I described. There are people who believe that there will eventually be computer intelligences that will be both smarter than humans and non-controllable by humans. And that's where the movie starts, right? I personally am not one of those people, but that's a possibility, I suppose. It's important that when this technology gets developed, that this technology be developed by us in the open, that is not in secret research labs, for the benefit of mankind, and that it needs to do what we agreed it's doing, right? And there are multiple people working on how to constrain such a project, and I'm sure they'll be successful. So my feeling is that all of this work should continue, and that the work on what is known as the ethics question is among the most important to continue working on.
Thank you for this insight, but who actually should decide how far we can go with AI, and what are the rules we should implement for AI?
Well, as I said, I think the most important ones are that this work be done transparently, that people can see what's being done, that people can criticize it, and that were something really bad to happen, people would know about it. I don't think that will happen, but I think that's good. I think you can be sure that if a secret lab went rogue and evil, like in a movie, someone would leak it to the government and the government would get involved. So the governments are not going to allow this to occur and end up with a bad outcome without them being involved with it. Today, we've not seen those bad outcomes.
As we all know, you were the leading manager of one of the greatest tech companies. But what most of us probably don't know is that you are a writer too. In your New York Times bestseller, How Google Works, you describe that while building Google, you often went off the script on how to build a company. Obviously, it worked quite well. Didn't you experience any setbacks while doing so?
Well, I made many, many mistakes as CEO, and I'm glad that the good things we did overcame the mistakes. A typical example is, did anyone ever use a product called Wave? Okay, some of you may have. We launched it, and from day one, its usage went straight down. And the question is, if you're the CEO, how many months of going down before you cancel it? Good Germans, smart people, look at the numbers, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 18 months, not good. There are other examples of that category, and again, just bad decisions. What I would say that we learned the most about Google when building it is the importance of what we call essentially divas. Very strong-willed, very, very committed, passionate technologists who want to do something. And when we say divas, we mean it in the good sense of diva. Steve Jobs was clearly a diva. Difficult sometimes, but his brilliance was so phenomenal. And you need in a company to have some of these people. You need to listen to them, you need to get them what they want, and you need to help them be successful. So my strategy every day as CEO was just make the people more productive. And our recruiting pipeline was so good, right, that became a scalable strategy. So ultimately, you can build environments where these exceptional people will come and they will be productive.
But do you have any advice for the young entrepreneurs here to probably avoid some mistakes?
Well, you could read my book, which has a lot of it in it. It's $10 or less. I don't know what it is in euros, probably similar. If I can make a comment about Germany, German engineering has always been the best in the world, and I think we all understand this. Culturally, the discipline, the quality. Software was not the lead in Germany until a few years ago. And so I would say that Germany, as a gross statement, has been late to the software revolution. So here's an example. I was part of a review of Industry 4.0, which is a hugely important initiative from the government around retooling the industry. Not enough software in that review. This is a few years ago. Now there's more software. So I think the answer is that you need to build a software community that's much, much larger than the one you have now. And by software, I mean cloud computing, use of machine learning, TensorFlow, all the latest languages, none of this old stuff, right? So what happens is everybody wants to sort of go play with the old computer systems. Don't do that. Spend your time on these new scalable architectures and design them with the kind of scale and power that a German engineer can see. Right? That's what I learned working with Andy Bechtolsheim way back when. Right? And I know that you all are capable of doing that. That's the most important piece of advice that I would offer you. Because I mean, we have 1,000 people here in Munich who are incredible technical engineers. I know the human capital is here in the country, and a lot of them come from TUM. So why don't you guys figure out a way to get collections of those software people and run like heck against some of these problems? You'll be hugely successful.
I'll try my best.
Right?
Thank you. In your book, you are not just talking about entrepreneurship, but you also describe the perfect employee. Probably next to the diva, there is the smart creative.
Yes, and we call them smart creatives because they're curious, right? And I don't know about you all, but you'll find in larger corporations, typically, maybe not in Google, but in larger corporations, you'll find people who get up in the work and they do their job well, and then they go home, and that's all. They're not very interesting, right? We want the person who is curious and creative, wants to do whatever they're doing differently and better, is seeking to change the environment around them, is frustrated if their manager is not allowing them to do that. That's a smart creative.
Would you describe yourself as a smart creative?
I hope so. But you know, my background, I grew up in a university community and wanted to be a computer science professor. And so I am first and foremost an academic, and I'm first and foremost a computer scientist. And so it's interesting to me that computer scientists are now going into other industries and transforming them. For example, education, with all the MOOC initiatives. So there's something about computer scientists and the way we are trained, which I can roughly understand as replication and scalability, right? Add one more level of indirection, you solve all problems, right? Everybody kind of understands how to do this as a computer scientist. And you can approach problems that have been stuck for a very long time, and using more data, more platforms, you can really explode the possibility of that. And that, to me, is the great promise of what we're doing.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Schmidt, for your insights. I think we heard already quite some interesting facts. Now, I would like to give my fellow students the chance to ask you some questions. We selected 3 of them up front. They're sitting here in the front row. Can we please turn on the lights? Exactly. And the microphone, exactly. So please state your name, your occupation, and keep your questions short.
Dear Eric, thank you for coming to Munich. I'm Hui. I'm a master's student in management technology. And my question is, the Chinese state established an AI-first strategy and to become a world leader in this field. So how do you think Google and the Western tech companies can keep up with that?
Now, you're talking about China, or you're talking about
China, yeah.
About China specifically. It's important to know that President Putin announced that he who controls AI will control the world. So, and last time I checked, he was in charge of Russia. So we need to understand their strategy, aside from his quote. In China, we know their strategy because they published a document which says that that AI is so important to China that they want to catch up by 2020, and they want to be the best in the world and dominate everything else by 2030. Oh my God. And these are their words, not mine. And what this means is that they're going to be producing hundreds of thousands of programmers, scientists, and technologists working in these spaces. My own view is that they are very close to being caught up. In my most recent visit with Shanghai, I was extremely impressed by the quality of their scientists, the quality of their work. Many of their homegrown computer science solutions are very, very good. So we should understand what they're doing and try to figure out how to compete. because I would not want to have the Western world lose our ability to innovate and so forth to a model that was driven by the Chinese.
Thank you.
Hi, Eric. So first of all, thank you very much for your talk. I'm Jiho, and I'm a master's student studying computational science here at TUM. So machine learning is significantly advancing the human-computer interaction in daily lives, namely natural language processing, for example. Suppose the AI development reaches a point where humans and AI become indistinguishable, such that we're basically fooled by the AIs, and considering that we're very emotional beings, do you see any possible shift in computer-human relationship from a very strict vertical hierarchy to a somewhat more flat one?
I think that there's a lot of, well, first place, there's a lot of assumptions in your question, so thank you. But it's important to understand that there's a series of assumptions there which include our ability in the computer level to invent creativity and volition. So today, the kind of computers that I'm talking about are very good at dealing with unstructured problems within a space, right? But they don't come up with those problems, and they don't come up with the reason why those problems are interesting. So in order for the permanent Turing test, which is what you're describing, where the computer and the human is indistinguishable, you're going to have to get in the computer the ability to deal with creativity, invention, and drive. Right? I want to do this. I want to be that. We don't know today how to do that. I was at one research project at MIT, which has a model for how to imitate that. So maybe they'll be successful, maybe they won't. Maybe it'll happen in our lifetimes, but I don't know. If it were to be that there were computers that had the same kind of creativity and drive as we did, and as long as there were some constraints on the evil part of the movie, right, I think we would enjoy it because they would be able to actually come up with ideas that we haven't seen before.
All right, thank you very much.
Hi, Eric. My name is Benjamin. I'm also studying computational science and engineering here at TUM. And here comes my question. Was Google inevitable? If not you guys, would someone else have done it? And might all advanced civilizations across the universe have a Google of some sort?
So when I look at the history of Google, first we had brilliant founders. But Google was not the first search engine. It was in many ways the last search engine founded. But the ranking algorithm was better. And then the monetization scheme, which was originally a straightforward ad sales, became a Dutch or Vickrey auction. And it was the combination of the fact that the Google search algorithm was more spam-proof and a better algorithm for ad placement that gave us the belief that we could grow the company so quickly. I think that that would have occurred somewhere. It's too good of a combination. Now, it might not have occurred at the same time, and it might not have occurred in California, and it might different founders and so forth. But I think the value of search was not well understood even when I joined the company by me. Right? I didn't understand how powerful this would be. We've been fortunate that because we had such a good hiring pipeline, we were able to then expand to things like Maps, right, and YouTube and those other things. Those could have been, again, occurred in a different context, but they would have occurred. I mean, think about YouTube. YouTube was a company that we acquired. Now, had we not acquired it, YouTube would have been hugely successful anyway, right, because YouTube is such a great idea. So inevitable. In some form, not necessarily in the same form. But that's like saying if Mr. Diesel had not shown up here in 1868, right after that, would Mr. Diesel in some other form have invented the diesel engine? Yeah. It was done first here, but it would have been done within a few years somewhere else, I would think. There's another smart German somewhere else who Mr. Diesel beat. Okay. We don't know his name. We just know Mr. Diesel's name.
Okay, Mr. Schmidt, thank you for your time tonight.
Okay, thank you.
Before we end this talk, I would like to make one last announcement. This call goes out to all of you, the smart creators among us. If you're not ready to hire at Google, but you want to create something big like this event tonight, then join us, the TUM Speaker Series.
I love that.
On stage, you can only see me, but it is our team what makes us really great, what makes ourselves leaders and shapers. So join us and become one of them. Thank you, Mr. Schmidt.
Thank you very much.
One second. Now, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome with me one of our smartest creatives, the president of the TUM Speaker Series, Jonas Stein.
Mr. Schmidt, it was a real honor to have you here on stage. As I already told you, last year when we had Bill Gates here, I said, next year we will have Eric Schmidt and I'll be gone. So that is my last evening tonight. Last night we had Kofi Annan. I gave him an empty mug. Now your colleagues told me you might not drink beer. I brought you beer. We can never make it right.
Thank you.
But anyway,
okay,
here's
perfect.
our present for you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you so much. Okay, I really appreciate this. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, thank you guys.
So, I mean, we could have had this talk in a smaller room and it would not be that as interesting. So, I want to say thank you to all of you for appearing tonight here, and to have at least one picture with all of you. I would ask you to turn around. Our photographer will take a picture with the whole audience.
Okay.
So people, smile.
Thank you.
So,
okay, good. Okay, thank you guys.
Mr. Schmidt and his company are known for really good tech, but the beer I actually gave him is called G-Brew. So Google made an own beer, and I would like you to try it. But before you do that, I want at least 1 more minute of your attention. Some of you have seen the live screen last night, so it's not a surprise for you. For the rest of you, I have an awesome opportunity to show your skill as a leader and shaper. The TUM Business Game. You might ask, what is the TUM Business Game? Well, it is actually a really, really nice idea, also organized by students, and what you do there, you solve a case. Every company has problems, and we are the ones, the most creative, the best resource they have. So they try to get our innovative, entrepreneurial thoughts, and to foster them, we have a competition called the TUM Business Game, as you can find here. So if you don't have to do anything on April 5th to April 7th, maybe think of coming to the TUM Business Game. Application is now. And that is the last word I want to say tonight. Thank you all for being here.